Namaste, welcome. I got a couple minutes before I gotta work. Today, let's talk about how triggers and judgments that you have of others are your tools for mastery. This is something that has really been helping me in my tribulations because we get triggered by people and events, and most of us will just blame whatever it is that's triggering us. Say, oh, you're stressing me out, or this is too much. But in reality, the things that we see have no meaning. We're the ones that, based on our past and what we're holding on to, what we believe, what we don't believe, what we feel is valuable, what we don't feel is valuable, because of our programming, we see things as a problem or we see them as a blessing. There's different cultures where the things that we do here are not accepted and vice versa. So there's really no authority figure telling us what's right and wrong. We like to believe there is, but that's another trick that we've created to take the blame off of ourselves. If we project out authority, it makes it easier for us when we fail, because we could say, well, God made me do it, or the devil made me do it, or my boss made me do it, or my anger made me do it. And that can be helpful because it allows us to wash away some of the guilt we feel. But it's also a double-edged sword, because then we're at the mercy of the thing that we're projecting out our authority. And we can even get hijacked. Like, there's so many people that are part of religions that will just do whatever the religion tells them to because it's for God. You could even look back in history, the Crusades, where they were going around killing people in the name of God. And even now, there's places in the world where if you don't believe in their God, they will kill you. And they wholeheartedly believe that they're doing what they're divinely called to do. And that can be scary to think of. I think here in America where I live, I don't know where you guys are checking in from, but I hope that it's not that intense for you and it's more just about people pissing you off and you projecting out blame and judgment on them. That's a little more manageable than physical warfare. So one thing I'm doing when that happens in my life is I'll sit with the idea that maybe there isn't an outside person. There isn't an outside circumstance. Maybe I'm just making it all up in my head. Maybe from a higher level of consciousness, the person that's upsetting me was sent to me to trigger me on purpose, because there's something within me that is mucking the water, metaphorically speaking. In Zen, there's a koan. I'm going to paraphrase, but basically it goes something like, when you're agitated, when you're being caught up in your mind, it's like you take your hand and you try to scoop up the clean water from a still body of water. And when you do that, you actually create the mud underneath to start to move, and it's no longer still. And that's a great metaphor, because every time we feel the need to identify or to project or to blame or to cast shame or to play the victim card, we're mucking the water. We're taking away our own stillness. We're justifying all these reasons why we're doing it, but we're doing more harm to ourselves than good. And it's probably because it's easier to do that than to face the thing that is upsetting us, triggering us, and dealing with it once and for all. That's not easy. It's not easy to come to the realization that we create all of our suffering. That when I was born, I wasn't suffering. Now, as I've gotten older and I've created all these meanings and definitions for life, insecurities and judgments, I'm creating suffering for myself. And this is where a lot of people will say, oh, well, what about the pedophiles and what about the murderers and what about, what if somebody comes and kills my loved ones? How could you say that I'm creating that suffering? And that's a tough question to explain to someone exactly what I mean. The best way I could try to explain it is you could become a murderer or a pedophile if you allow your thoughts to get to such a point where they convince you that up is down and down is up and left is right and right is left. And you're in such a place of confusion that you no longer have that connection to your divinity, to your conscience. And then you start thinking stuff like killing and hurting others is okay. And we can't fix the outside world because, number one, from a physical standpoint, they're outside of you. They're a different person than you. You can't force somebody to do something. And number two, from a deeper level, I feel that they're there, like I was saying before, to show you what you don't want, to show you some things that you're holding within you that are not working. If you hate murderers and pedophiles and rapists so much, then instead of complaining about it, you have the power to create something where it's less likely to happen in the world. And that could be why it's appearing in your life. Once again, you're the authority. You're the one that has to make the choices at the end of the day. Every time you say there's something outside of you that's creating the choices, you're stripping yourself of your power. We were all born here not knowing anything. And ironically, we all believe we know so much, but we really don't. Because if we did, the world wouldn't look the way it does. If there was an authority figure that knew everything, then where is he or she? And why hasn't this world been fixed? Or at least we say it needs to be fixed. But that's also a projection of the discord we have within ourselves. Because when we face the enemy within, when we face our shadows, our insecurities, the world starts to look amazing. You start to have moments of just great awe. Like when you were a kid, when you would just look around and just marvel at every little thing and not identify it or call it good or bad or care about where it's going to take you. You would just see everything from a pure place, a beginner's mind, as the Buddhists call it. Stay in beginner's mind. Beginner's mind is like a a radio seeking for a channel. A radio can't play another radio station if it's already locked into one station. Every time we get caught up in our thoughts, we're locked into the mental station, and we can't tune into the other deeper levels of consciousness. So stop listening to that channel. Stop listening to that mental chatter. Let it do its thing, because it's not going to go away. But also acknowledge that it's temporary, that you created it, that you're the one that has the authority over it, that it's the very words that you learned that are giving your mental capacity the power to speak to you. Try to not use words. Gandhi used to, every Monday of the week, he would see how far in the week he could go not using words, because he realized that words are just symbols, and symbols mean things. Pictures mean things when we look at them. So when we use words, we're using symbols, we're using pictures. So the less pictures you put in front of you, the less you'll get distracted. So he would go a couple days not using words, just staying quiet, and that's how he would enter samadhi, or enlightenment, or boundless peace. And we can all do this. It's just we live in a world where distractions are plentiful, they're abundant. We love distractions. We think that boredom is the worst thing in the world, that we shouldn't be bored, that as soon as you're done with one thing, you have to do something else, and something else, and something else. And as entertaining as this is, we are creating a disease where we can't sit still, we can't concentrate, we can't contemplate, we can't even meditate. We're going the opposite way of truth. We're creating so many stories in our head that we have enough stories to keep us busy for millennia, each one of us. You can go on YouTube and have enough content to watch for 30 lifetimes, and you still probably won't get it all looked at, because there's more coming out every day. And I fall into this trap, but acknowledgement is the first step, and accepting it, and then learning to work with it, not making it your enemy. All right, time to go to work. Much love to you all. Namaste. Peace.